Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Angel Road Outdoors, the podcast. This is episode 35, and I am your host, Brett. I am joined today by a very special guest, Heather Stevens. Heather, how are you?
I am doing great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining me on very short notice. Just kind of reached out to you randomly. I think it was yesterday, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a long list of people that I've been wanting to talk to and figure out how to um plug them into like the sequence of guests and whether or not it makes sense based on the time of year. And as far as I'm concerned, what we're going to talk about today really kind of fits in year round as far as I'm concerned. Um, why don't you take as much time as you'd like and tell people who you are, who you are with, and where they can find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Heather Stevens. I went to school for microbiology at Washington State University. And then I immediately started doing animal histology for the state diagnostic laboratory. And that's when I became a histotechnologist specializing in all things animal tissue. And then in 2011, I started my own company that specialized in research histology. And then in 2018, I purchased deerage.com, where we forensically age game animals using histology techniques. And that is how you came to find me, is through deerage.com. And I understand you're a customer.
I am. Yeah. Last year was my first year using deerage.com, and it was a tremendously A, affordable, and B, easy process. And I plan to do it probably with every deer I shoot from now on.
Oh my gosh, that's so awesome to hear. I
Yeah.
love that. I love that.
So
Yeah,
so
we had
so
to
oh, go
change
ahead.
a lot of things when we first bought the company. So when we
Hmm.
first bought the company, everything was like paper based. Everything was like paper based. We didn't have a database. And so throughout the last 5 years, we've been changing it to where it's a database and you have a customer portal. And I just spent all morning since 6 a.m. talking with the new developer about improving the customer experience even more so that you can do more things and track more metrics on your own for your deer. So yeah, we're just working on keeping that customer experience really enjoyable.
So you're saying that you had a company that purchased deerage.com, which was a
Correct.
pre-existing company.
Correct.
Okay. Interesting. Very
Yes.
nice.
So Deer Age was started in 2004 by Henry and Mary Chidgey. They wanted to bring this type of aging to the public more as a retail service. And so they did really well. I mean, they weren't scientists or anything, but they read all of the paperwork and they got a little bit of help and started doing it on their own and growing the business. And they really built an amazing brand. And then they were looking, as they were growing, they were looking for a laboratory that could take on more volume and that they could just send the samples to versus trying to do them themselves. And so I hooked up with them in 2014 and we started doing their samples as a client. And then we rewrote all their protocols to get a little bit darker lines and better stuff than what they had read from the published data. And then we worked together for, I think, quite a few years. And then they wanted to retire and asked if I would buy them out. And I was like, heck yeah, I love doing this. So yeah, so now we are making changes. And I just thought, oh, we already do all the teeth. This should be great. And slowly it's pretty much consumed my whole life. Like I pretty much wake up with Deer Age on the brain.
Love it. That's super awesome. I love when I hear stories, where you kind of start something that you're very passionate about, and then you meet other people who are super passionate about a very similar thing and or in the same market, and then you work together and everything's cool. And they're like, you know what? You seem really passionate about this. Wouldn't you just love to buy us out? I mean,
Yeah,
that
I
I
was
feel like it
like,
happens a
sure.
lot. Yeah, it's a fantastic story.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was a pretty big challenge at first, honestly. I like had some kind of regret, I guess, but I had a little bit of buyer's remorse at the outset just because things were like the business was growing at that time and everything was paper based, and so it was really difficult to track and it took a lot more manpower than what I had. And so I had to like try to find ways to make it more efficient and also make it to where there's no sample switching going on. So we like gravitated towards a barcoding system, and now our efficiency, like we've really streamlined everything, and customers can like um log into their portal at any time and ask questions or check up on their deer. And so it's just a little bit better customer experience as well.
Yeah, in fact, when I was trying to track down an email address to reach out to you yesterday, I was able to log into my portal. I was able to revisit, the photo that I uploaded of the deer that I harvested, and anyway, it's just it all lives right there, and it's easy to log back in and see all that really cool stuff. And again, as you do this, I think that's going to be another really great opportunity for hunters throughout the country to, or I guess world really, to kind of log in and reminisce a little bit about all those old hunts.
Well, and we're also
Yeah.
building it so that you can start planning your hunts as well. So with our new developer, we're working on a spot for putting up all your trail camera pictures so you can kind of keep track of certain deer ahead of the hunt as well if you're, if you're doing that sort of thing. And then you can transfer those to your harvest once you get it entered and after you harvest the animal. So then you can kind of plan it a little bit better as well and keep track of, just some different hunting statistics that we don't have available right now. That's on the very near horizon with our new development.
Love it. So when it comes to deer aging, what are you doing over there?
Well, it's fairly complicated science.
Love it.
So a lot of people think we're just looking at the teeth. That's actually not what we're doing at all. So we're doing a histological process. So basically what we do is we have to remove the calcium from the teeth in order to make them flexible enough to section. And then they go through multiple different pieces of histology equipment to be infiltrated with wax. And then once they're infiltrated with wax, then we are able to section them very thin and put them onto a slide. And then we stain them with our stain that we developed. And then after they're stained, someone's able to count the lines on the root of the tooth. So the root is primarily what we're aging. So every year there's a difference in the growth of the cementum that's on the tooth, and it'll get darker in the fall. So we're able to see very accurately how many seasons that deer has been alive. So yeah, so it goes through the ringer. The teeth get put through the ringer to get onto a slide in order for us to age it.
I'm not gonna lie. I really firmly believed that you literally took the tooth, you cut it in half, and you looked in there. The fact that you had to decalcify it in order to make it flexible was something that
Yeah.
I think probably had I done some research on, can you tell me how to say the type of aging? It's cementum what?
Yes, cementum annuli.
Cementum annuli.
Annuli.
Had
Yeah.
I done some prior research, I probably could have figured that out. But hearing you say that, it's fascinating to me that it's not
We
just
we actually have a
cutting.
huge laboratory. I wish I could take you on a tour. I should have signed on my phone. We have a huge laboratory with multiple people in here. There's I think one, two, three, four. I think 4 to 5 different pieces of equipment that it has to go through. Pieces of like laboratory equipment that it has to go through before it can get to a slide.
Yeah.
So it's a fairly large and involved process.
So when you became so when you realized you wanted to do the histological process, um, and you kind of linked up with deerage.com,
Mhm.
did you have any idea that this was really, going to be as successful as it is? Or is it not really what you hoped it would be? Like, give me
Sure.
shed a little light on that.
Sure. So, so when I very first started doing the deer teeth, I was really fascinated by the whole process itself. So I thought it was super cool. I really enjoyed it. And at that time, I didn't know a single person that hunted. I didn't know anything about hunting at all when I first started doing the teeth. And then during that process that I was still taking them as a client, I met my husband, who was a taxidermist for 20 years, Montana boy, bow hunter, and I was like, whoa, this guy's like super manly. It's like major improvement over the guys in Spokane that are like skateboarding around with sideways hats at 45. So yeah, he taught me a lot about hunting and what we're doing and why we're doing it. And so he was actually there with me before I purchased it. And I think probably had I not had him in my life, I maybe wouldn't have purchased it just because I think it might have been a little overwhelming for me. but we really kind of made the choice to kind of go in on it together. And he was there to support me and help me. And gradually, as time has gone on, he's gotten to be more and more of a integral part of the company. He does all of our advertisements. He does our social media. He, helps me plan things and look at it from a hunter's perspective. So did I know it was going to be as big as it is? I hoped it would. So I really felt like it had the opportunity to be as big as it is becoming. I wasn't positive, but I hoped that it would. And so far it's going really well. I mean, we're making some pretty big connections in the hunting industry, and I think people really like what we're doing. It's fun, first of all, like just to do it at all is really fun. It's affordable, like you mentioned. And so yeah, I think it has impressed me with how well it's done. And I'm looking forward to seeing how much farther that goes, basically. So yeah, my husband's helped me a lot through this process. I've learned so much more than I ever thought I would about just game animals and management, and
Mm-hmm.
really the cyclical nature of the teeth, and I'm learning just so many different things about it. So for me, the science aspect is super fun as well, and the opportunity now that we have this database to actually do real research is exciting to me as well. So bringing together two worlds, hunting and science.
Oh yeah. And I think a lot of people get hung up, or maybe not. Maybe I'm misguided in what I'm about to say, but I think a lot of people think that the hunt, starts in the fall and ends with the harvest of the animal, and that just getting an aged is whippy-doo. I figured out how old it is. But I think
Yeah.
understanding the age of your animal and how it relates to the herd health, I think ultimately plays a bigger picture with conservation of our natural resource. And so I think it would behoove all hunters to understand the age of which the animals you are hunting, heck, look on how old are they based on their size on the hoof. Like, you should be able to sit in your stand and listen. I know that I am not good at that. Because I just got my first one ever done. I want to be a better steward of the resource, understanding approximate age of the deer, that you're hunting, or heck, whatever else you're hunting.
Right.
It's just good for the resource.
Yes, I totally agree. And I think it really, people are doing it for different reasons, just depending on who you are as the customer, right? Like, I think that I love your approach and what you're saying and learning and being a better steward. I think that's what everyone should definitely be striving for. And then there's also people who are actually managing lands, and they're
Oh
managing
yeah.
them as hunting properties, and they're neat, or hunting clubs where they're like, hey, this is what we're shooting for, this is what we're trying to do. And so it can be a really integral part of either a hunting club or land management, things like that. And really knowing if your management efforts are actually working. So if you're trying to get those bigger body sizes and bigger antlers at a younger age, you're not gonna know that unless you're doing the aging process. And I also think that everything we've learned about aging on the hoof is inherently skewed, because that was all based off of a very inaccurate type of aging. So, in a way, we're having to like relearn that, and it is based on your area as well. So I think that that's
100%.
it's a little bit more broad of a spectrum.
I agree with that. And um, realistically, a lot of people, a lot of guys are hunting or women are hunting in different states, and so the deer in Michigan absolutely look different than the deer in, Illinois, Kansas, and Nebraska, and Minnesota, Wisconsin, Alabama, Mississippi. So to say I'm aging it on the hoof is sort of maybe short-sighted, but understanding your area and then what it looks like. And
Yeah,
comparatively, because I only have one based on an Illinois age. I
yeah.
want to age some in Michigan and continue to progress that way. You know, I'm curious, what did so is the name of your lab Wildlife Analytical Laboratories?
It is, yeah.
What else are you guys doing over there?
So with Wildlife Analytical Laboratories, we are only focused on aging of all different game animals, and that was the name of the company that Henry established. But he did choose URL of deerage.com. And so
Okay.
gradually it's kind of evolved into our nickname, Deer Age.
Mhm.
And when we originally decided to change the branding to something a little bit more modern and that represents like this change in the company to new ownership, we picked a really well-known outdoor industry designer, and he came up with the Deer Age logo, which we really like. So
Oh yeah.
Wildlife Analytical Laboratory specifically is working on forensic aging, and we are working on some various types of research. Uh, it's slow because we are self-funded. We don't have any grants or anything like that at this
Mhm.
time. But then our parent company, Nationwide Histology, we do all other types of histology. So we take in drug studies from universities, biotech companies, and we will take any type of animal tissue. Like if you're doing a drug study and you have like 10 treatment groups and you're trying to see the efficacy across 10 treatment groups, we take those tissues in, we process them, put them on slides, and then we have a pathologist that will look at them, or we can just send the slides back to the customer. So we are involved in other types of animal research as well as the parent company, but Wildlife Analytical Laboratory specifically is just aging.
Got it. Okay. So I was doing a little bit of reading around the website, and it mentions that that type of aging is available for all mammals, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Just skipped over.
exactly. Yep.
Sorry.
We have the ones that we kind of stick with, but yeah.
Okay.
So obviously white-tailed deer are the most popular.
Yeah.
It's America's sweetheart game. But
Is
then
that
we
what the
also
nickname
do,
is that I didn't know?
I
America's
just
Sweetheart Game? I like that.
I call it that. I think
I
it's
love it.
America's sweetheart game.
Yeah.
And then we do mule deer, bear, moose, things like that. And then occasionally I get requested to do some oddball stuff. I've aged a raccoon, um, and just some random things. We do a little bit of African game, pronghorn, things like that. So
Okay.
yeah, I mean, we've kind of aged pretty much everything. Some things are easier to age than others, just based on the cementum lines.
Interesting. But the process by which you do it is still relatively the same.
Process is the same. Yeah, the only difference is based on, you have to do research. If you're getting a new species, you have to do research on like when the teeth first emerge in the mouth that you're
Mm.
going to be aging, as well as when the first cementum lines are forming. So there's a little bit of research involved with that prior to doing a new species, because um, like you may have to add a year or something
Mm.
to how many lines you see, just based on what species you're looking at.
Interesting. It
Mhm.
makes a lot of sense. It's just not something that I would have really ever thought about, that maybe the teeth didn't come out in that particular mammal's mouth
Right.
at the same
Until
time
it's like 2
the
years old.
deer would.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, very
Yeah.
interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So, you're collecting this data and you're
Yeah.
harvesting it and you're sharing it with the customers, and
Yeah.
I'm sure you've got an incredible database of information. Are you seeing trends, or are you able to see nutritional trends of the game that you're testing, either good or bad, based on their
That
teeth?
is what that's what I'm wanting to do. So
Okay.
I don't have any research projects going right now that look at that specifically. We did start up a small nutritional program, hoping for participation. We got a couple of people that wanted to participate, but we just weren't really able to get the project off the ground. So unfortunately, with these larger projects like that, where we're looking at either injury is a big one that's of interest to me, because typically I can see when an animal has sustained a severe injury in their teeth, and that's just off of you know asking people. So I'll see something and I'll say,
Yep.
hey, did this deer have any old injuries? And then they
Hmm.
usually confirm it. So I'm like, oh cool, I can see it. So I'm starting to do that kind of thing. But those types of large scale projects do require a lot of funding, because everyone's here is busy. We're working, we're answering phone calls, we're answering emails, we're trying to get kits out to people, we're trying to make sure we're not missing deadlines. Everyone here has a role to play, and unfortunately there's just not enough time and money to just sit around doing these big research projects that would take a lot of time and money. So
Yeah.
unless we were to write some grants for something like that to specifically look at those trends, which again, I haven't even had time to even consider writing a grant, let
Sure.
alone sit down and actually do one, then I think that a lot of that is going to have to wait until we do have more money as a company, to where we can
Yeah.
start kind of hiring people to do that kind of thing. So
I,
at this
I
point, we're
personal.
too small to fund that.
Yeah. Personally, I think that'd be a fantastic thing to have happen. I hope that you find that
Yeah.
time in the future, because I
Yeah.
think, there's all this discussion about habitat and and what their nutrition looks like in different
Yeah.
parts of the country. If you could realistically look back at the
I
data, say, listen, this is the trend over X amount of years,
Yes.
either trending up or trending down. I think that would be beneficial for all of our states' Department of Natural Resources, long
Yeah, and we did
term.
invest in a whole slide scanner. So all of our slides are digitally scanned and permanently stored. So we would be able to pull past slides and actually look at them to compare their different characteristics and things like that. So we do have the ability to participate in those larger type studies. We just don't have the funding really. I
Sure.
mean, it would take a lot of time and someone full time
Oh yeah.
dedicated to that. So it is something we're working towards though. And I do look forward to the day that we're able to get something usable, which is why I had the database put in 2001 so that we did have a central database. And we want to make it more usable for the customers so that you're getting access to all that data too. So that's something we're working on with the new customer portal where you'll be able to see statistics for like our database, right? So you can
Mhm.
see how many of what animal were aging and what percentage of them are this age or that age and what's the oldest, what's the youngest, like all of those different kinds of metrics is what we're trying to bring to the customer. And hopefully at some point that'll continue to evolve to where you can look at your state individually and see what the averages are there. But it just takes getting all that data in. It takes time, it takes development, and it's a big undertaking. So little by little, we're just trying to bite that off and keep developing everything to make it better.
Yeah. So you mentioned kits just a little bit ago. Can you
Mm-hmm.
elaborate on the process for when somebody were to want to engage and
Yes.
order a kit? And then if you want to, maybe touch on the sale.
Yeah. I happen to have a kit right here.
Ooh, look at that.
Isn't that lovely?
It is. I love it.
I happen to have one right here. So basically, what we ended up having to do to ensure accuracy, no sample switching, and also speed of processing the samples is we had to go to a barcoding system. So essentially, what you do is when you're ready to send something in, you order a kit based on the turnaround time that you're wanting. So we have a 90-day option, which is the most economical option. We have a 45-day option, and we have a 1-week turnaround. So you pick how fast you want your results back, and then you can either enter your harvest details at checkout if you've already harvested something, or you can just buy your kit and enter it before you send it. So there's some kit redeem instructions on the inside on how to go online and actually redeem the kit if you didn't do so at checkout. And then there's instructions on how to remove the teeth, how to package them. It comes with a return envelope and an order card so that you can keep your tooth safe in transit. And just like everything, we're working to improve everything. I've been trying really to make a partnership with either FedEx or USPS to get return shipping included. That's something that we're hoping to work on at some point because a lot of people will just slap a stamp on there and then it's lost forever. And so I definitely recommend sending with some sort of tracking. Even the post office has tracking for like $3. So send it with tracking. But yeah, that's stuff we're working on. So the process is easy. You just go buy your kit. There's instructions online on how to take the teeth out. And then if you're not comfortable taking the teeth out, we actually have a $5 upcharge and we'll take them out for you. So you can saw off the front part and we'll take them out. Because if the roots are broken, we can't age it. So that's pretty important that we have those. It is an easy process. You just choose what turnaround time you want, buy your kit, and then put your teeth in the kit and send it back in. And then when we scan it in, when it arrives, we check in once a week and we scan it in, and then the system will let you know when you can expect your results by. It'll be in your customer portal.
Yeah, love it. Again, it was such an easy process. Um, I was so excited to do it that I paid for the expedited 1 week. And I'm sorry to the technician that had to take and do all of that on an expedited basis, but I sincerely appreciate it. It was awesome.
Oh, yeah. We have a very tight system. So when I first took over the company, the fastest service was 45 days, I think. And then they had the basic service that we have now, the slow one, that was 120 days.
Okay.
So part of the problem was check-in was extremely slow and the system that they had in place was slow. So we redeveloped all the systems. We were able to take the slowest service down to 90 days from 120, and then we were able to introduce a 1-week service. And I know it sounds a little bit cliche, or I guess cliche is not really the word, but it sounds a little funky, that we only check in on Mondays. So if your sample arrives on like, let's say a Thursday, it's not going to get checked until Monday, and the results for a 1 week service are due by Friday, which is slightly over a week. But we do try to turn them around very quickly. So I would say on average, we are getting them out by Wednesday. But like this week's a holiday week.
Oh
Maybe
yeah.
I'll get them on the holiday, maybe I won't. So it might be Friday. So we do shoot for extremely fast when it comes to the platinum service.
Honestly, for the cost and the fact that it may be 8 business days. Come on, people. It's totally
Yeah.
listen to
Well,
what you just
and
said
we're
they
the
have to do.
fastest in the world. We're the fastest in the world. There
Okay.
is no one faster.
I
There,
love
there
it.
is no one faster that can do it as fast as we can. And we do it accurately because of the barcoding and because of our systems and being so tightly tracked. I mean, it comes from running a laboratory. So with
Yeah.
a diagnostic laboratory, you can't be mixing up someone's cancer samples. You can't be, losing things. So we basically just treated these as diagnostic samples, and we were able to come out with very rapid push through, and everyone here is highly trained. Our lead technician was trained at the Mayo Clinic. She's an exceptional histotechnologist. So yeah, we definitely know what we're doing.
So you mentioned that you're the fastest in the world. Is this a common, business that there are multiple people that you're competing against worldwide?
Okay, so when I say we're the fastest in the world, it's not like the largest feather in our cap, because there is not very many people that do this in the whole world. But it sounds super cool because it is true, and we are the fastest in the world, and frankly, the best in the world. But even just globally, there aren't very many people that do this, especially on this scale, right? So there's a lot of people that will have a small laboratory that are doing this for like a state agency or something like that, where they're all just like doing their own samples, but they don't have like a retail service. We did just launch in Canada a couple of years ago. It's been a little slow, and then a new lab opened in Canada through a university that's in competition with us.
Hmm.
But there aren't very many people that do what we do. It is very niche.
Yeah, I love it. No, I wasn't trying to sell you short. I was literally
Yeah,
curious how many other people were
yeah,
doing this. Okay,
not that many.
that's fantastic.
But we're
Um,
still the best out of the small group.
the best. Love it.
Yeah, the
And
best.
you're sitting on this podcast and you're energetic and you love to talk about it and you're knowledgeable and that makes that goes a long way as well. So thank you for that.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you.
Can you talk about the teeth? So, I know that what teeth you have to take out, but and again, there's very specific instructions in your kit that you would
Yeah.
get on how to do it and which ones to do it with, but why those teeth?
Okay, so the front lower incisors, the very front two buckies on the teeth, those are the ones you want, and it has to be the root. And the reason being, they just have the best cementum lines. They're typically the most clear, they're the easiest to decipher. Every single tooth in that deer's head can be aged. However, once you get to the molars, it gets a lot more complicated for many reasons, and which that's one of the reasons we charge more. Not only is there more biohazard waste, but because we are a laboratory, so we don't just huck it in the garbage, right? That's not a thing. But you have to know exactly what molar you're dealing with. So you can't just send me a molar because they're aged differently depending on which one they are. So I need to know which one it is. I have to have the whole side jaw so that I know which one I'm getting. And if we didn't get an age, I have to go take another one and know which one that is. And then in addition to that, the cementum lines on molars aren't very good. So I've seen some good ones, which have been uh, a welcome sight, but the cementum lines can stack really tightly together in the molars. They don't spread out that much. And so it can be harder to decipher. And then they can also be a little bit wavy in the molars. Towards the tip of the molars, they can almost all stack completely together into one line.
Mm.
And so it takes a lot more time. It takes a lot more sections. It takes a lot more experience. They're just not as good to age. So it's challenging because a lot of people keep the jaw because they're like, oh, this is how it's always been. You just look at the jaw, and it's like, no, we need the front teeth. And so
Yeah.
as people are learning this more, as people are doing it more, Some people send in a side jaw the first year because they didn't know any better, and they're like, oh, but next year I'm going to be sending in the front two teeth, right? Because they know better. So yeah, you want to just take out those front two teeth. We do have a video instruction on our YouTube and on our website on how to take the teeth out. They come out best from a fresh harvest. So when the deer is fresh, they come out really well. And then you just want to dry them overnight on the counter or something very far away from the dog.
I assume there's a story to go along with
Oh,
that.
there's like 100 stories. Do you know how many dogs eat people's teeth? It is so funny. It's hilarious actually. My dog ate my homework. They eat people's teeth a lot. So yeah, keep it away from the dog and just make sure it's dried out. Don't send anything in a plastic bag. If you could avoid sending the whole tongue or entire face, that's great. We're not a fan of that. It has happened, but yeah, just the teeth is fine. More is not necessarily better. Um, two teeth is definitely more than enough. I would say
Okay.
probably 95% of the time, the second tooth is never used. We
Wow.
file it. Yeah, it's filed by number, it's filed by batch. So if someone is to question their results, we do offer the option for our customers to question their results if they feel there's been an error. Um, Plus or minus 1 year is the statistical accuracy of this. So um, we try to be spot on. I'd rather
Yeah.
not even be off by 1 year. But if someone's like, hey, you said this is 3 and I know it's old, there's no way. Can you look again? We can pull that second tooth from the file and get it done the next week with the platinums and try to see if there was a problem or if maybe the customer just doesn't know what they're talking about. So um, yeah, so most of the time the second tooth isn't even utilized. So one tooth is more than enough, but it's best to have two just in case anything happens. Like I mentioned at the beginning, the teeth are going through a lot of chemicals and a lot of things are happening. So it's always nice to have a backup tooth available just in case anything happens.
Yeah. I like to envision a baby human. And if you think about a baby human and which of their teeth are coming in first, it's those front
Those
chinlets.
buckies,
Yeah, those
those
front,
little
front,
front
top,
buckies.
or bottom two. Does that come into play as to, maybe the deer those are the deer's first teeth as well?
Yeah, I believe they come in at 6 months old. So yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and every animal is different. So depending on what you're aging, you'll have to look at the chart of when they're emerging. And then like right now we're doing a project with muskox and the teeth don't come in until 2.5 years old, but the first cementum line does form even though the tooth hasn't emerged. So you kind of have to account for all of that stuff. There's a little bit of math involved depending on what species you're aging. So,
And
mhm.
correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think there was. With my results, there wasn't an image of the actual tooth itself, like the cut of it.
So you have the option at checkout to add that on as a product, an additional product. I should say because it's mostly me. We will annotate the lines and
Mm,
highlight them and point them out, and then put the logo and put your barcode so you can see that it's your tooth and put that into your portal. It's not automated, like it's a manual process, so someone still
got it.
has to sit there and do all of that, which is why we charge for it.
Got it. Yeah, I must have missed
Hmm.
that last time. Not thinking about it sitting here today, I probably I should have chosen that. I guess I just missed it. That's okay.
Well,
Gives me a
in the
time.
checkout process, I don't really like the existing checkout process, and that's what we've been
Mm,
working on with the developers. So, actually, like I said, I spent the whole morning with him. The new checkout process is definitely a little bit more clear. You can put in a little bit less data at checkout and
mm,
more in your portal, and then those types of add-on services are more clear. Like it's definitely a do you want this or not? Do you want this or not? So that it's not just these little clicky things
mhm.
like it has presently. So I wouldn't be surprised that it was easy to miss on the first round, but
Okay.
now with this new system, it'll be a little bit more clear. So yeah, and that's just digitally provided. It's not printed. It's just in your portal where you can click on it and see the image pulled up.
Yeah. Now, listen, I'm going to tell you what I did on the last one, and I want you to tell me if I did anything that you would advise maybe somebody does differently. So
Okay.
I shot my deer on November the 13th, and I took the bottom jaw off and I put it in the freezer because at the
Hmm.
time I didn't have the kit.
Hmm.
Uh, I didn't really know what I was doing at the time.
Hmm.
Is that okay? Like, to keep it
There's
frozen?
Yeah, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. It can just be harder to take the teeth out once you
Mm.
get it out. So,
Yeah.
like, I recommend if you're even interested in aging at all, just watch the video online on how to take them out and then just leave the two teeth out in a paper envelope or paper bag of some kind
Got it.
so that they can dry out. Now that my husband is super spoiled because we do this, he'll just plop teeth on my desk straight out the animal's mouth, and I've got two teeth sitting here with blood all over the place on my
The
desk
sticky note.
and a sticky note. Yeah, exactly. And they dry out fast and they don't
Okay.
stink or anything like that. They
Yeah.
dry out super fast overnight. They will dry out
Awesome.
overnight with nothing if they're just exposed to air. It's when people start putting things in Ziplocs, which we're all used to Ziplocs. Ziploc is everyone's go-to storage device for everything. But in this instance, Ziplocs are the enemy because it accelerates the rotting process because no air is in there. And so they can get pretty darn funky. And the mailman can be a little fussy when drippings and things are happening. So
Mhm. Yeah.
drippings,
I've
smells.
learned FedEx doesn't like beeping packages, and apparently they don't like dripping packages. I learned
No,
that.
they do not.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Write that down, everybody. Put that in your little notes.
No drippy
Dripping
packages.
packages and no beeping packages. I
No,
promise.
yeah. Don't send your watch with your jaw.
Your watch. Do you so listen, you're aging. I don't want to assume here, but you're aging probably a ton of bucks. Everybody wants to know how old their bucks were. Do you see a lot of people that age does? Or
So it is getting more popular. So I think that aging does is definitely starting to come around to where people are like, like maybe I can tell the actual potential age span of my area by aging does. And does can get exceptionally old
Oh
too,
yeah.
just because people are not super hot on shooting those, I guess. But also it can be harder to age them on the hoof too. So yeah, so it is increasing, but yeah, primarily it's bucks. That's what people want to know the
So
age
I'm
of.
gonna I'm gonna put out a challenge right now to all of my friends who I know we all shoot does. So I'm gonna challenge every one of my friends to have I want them to shoot a mature doe this year, and I want you to age it. And then I want you to come back and I want you to tell me how old that mature doe was. Because I have a feeling that 2 years ago, I probably had a 10-year-old doe in my yard. She was just humongous. I mean, humongous.
She could
And
have been even older, honestly. Like I've seen so the oldest, was it a doe that I aged that it might have been a doe that was 24
what?
or 22. Yeah. Yeah. Um they can get old. So I think
It's incredible.
because since I got the database, I'm trying to think. So since I got the database put in, the oldest I've aged is I think 22. And that was a doe.
That is double what I thought you were going to say. Double.
Yeah, and so old. Yeah,
Free
she had a
range.
walker. I thought she had a
Holy moly. Is there any chance you remember where that deer was from?
It was from Pennsylvania.
What?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. So,
Yeah, and it's
like,
not uncommon for me to see deer that are over 10 years old. I would say out of every batch of 60, there's at least two that are over 10.
you're
So
kidding.
it's no, I'm not kidding. And
That's
some of
great.
I think the oldest buck might have been, I don't know. I wish I could look at the statistics page right now, but I think it was like 18. So
Wow.
yeah. Yeah,
I feel like
they
in
do
the
get really
last,
old.
yeah, I feel like in the last year of your social media posts, I have absolutely seen some nines, and I want to say I've seen an 11
Yeah.
at least in the last 12 months of paying attention to the posts. Because you guys do a
I'm
really great job of,
Thank
either
you.
daily or multiple daily of,
Yeah, so my husband does a lot. So my husband initially started the Instagram page and doing all of the posting and kind of how to format that and how to do all that. And now we have an employee, Amanda, who follows his guidance. So he's in charge of um, what are our metrics for what gets posted
hmm,
and you know, if this, then do that kind of thing. So he
yeah,
gives her all her guidance and then she posts it. I mean, ideally we would post everyone. I mean, but it's so many. I think right now we have over 2,000 pictures from last year that haven't been posted, and this year's almost here already. So
Yeah, for sure.
you know, it's a lot. It's a lot. We have a lot of pictures, and it's great. We love them.
Yeah.
Keep them coming, and so yeah, it's fun. But yeah, I don't know if the really old ones don't make the cut, but I don't know their metrics. I'm grounded from social media, so I'm not allowed. So I just I just like stuff as it goes past.
Man, I
It's
feel like we could go down a
not my
rabbit hole as to why that might be, but we're gonna just we're gonna let that one just kind of float out there and everybody can
yeah. Yeah,
imagine.
you can use your imagination. I'll just say that I don't have a filter, so yeah.
That's okay.
So I stay in the lab.
Well, so do you hunt now?
I do not hunt anything, no. And my customers would absolutely loathe it if I did hunt because busy season is in hunting season, and I am here very, very, very long hours. So no, I don't hunt. I don't know that I would have an interest in hunting, but I definitely fish. So
Okay.
I don't know, maybe I could get into it, but um, yeah, I have rheumatoid arthritis, so I don't like the cold at all. I'm not a cold weather person. I like heat and humidity. So in the winter, if I'm going to go somewhere, I want to go to Florida and cast my fishing pole with
Okay.
my painkiller. That's kind of my gig. But so I do fish a lot in the summertime. We do a lot of fishing, and then occasionally we'll take a vacation down to the Keys or St.
Okay.
Thomas, and we do fish down there. So, but no, I don't do any hunting.
Well, what's your slow season? Obviously, if hunting season's the busy season,
Well,
does it kind of take you
mhm.
all the way through? Is there not really a slow time?
So we used to have a slow season. Um, I guess one could say it's slow-ish right now,
Okay.
but really it has tapered off. So as we've gained some more state contracts, they tend to send all of their stuff in the springtime
Hmm.
from the previous fall, and we try to crank those out as fast as we can so that we're not doing them during busy season. So our slow season is now hurry up and get the states done season. And then as we've started trying to just get better about business and better about marketing and things like that, we're running more sales in the summer so that people can get ready for hunting. Things have perked up in the summertime with retail end as well. So it's slow in the sense that we're not getting 400 or 500 phone calls a day like we do in busy season,
Yeah.
and the email box doesn't have, you know, thousands of emails to go through. It just has like a handful. So but as far as like working, like we're still like trying to bust butt in here getting stuff done as much as we can for the states so that it's out of the way before the craziness hits.
Yeah, for sure. So you have a sale going on right now, correct?
We do. We just started our 4th of July sale today, and it goes through the 7th so that we can give customers who are out blowing their fingers off plenty of time to get those repaired and then use their good hand to place their order. So
I One of my favorite memes, it's also kind of sad, but it's one of my favorites is this year. It's like this is the last weekend for someone with all 10 fingers. And they don't even, you know what I
they
mean?
don't even
I don't know
know. They
why.
don't even
That
know.
I laugh and
Yeah.
it's so sad, but I do laugh
It's
every single year.
it's I know. I'm just that way too. I find it rather amusing.
So you just mentioned that you get a lot of like state work right now. Can you tell me a
Yeah.
little bit about what you mean by that?
Yeah, so a lot of state agencies are doing their own research projects and they're doing their own population studies.
Hmm.
So they can they like Fish and Game will stop people and take the teeth out, and they sit there and they gather teeth and then they ship them all in a big box to us in the springtime. So
Okay.
yeah, and then the project we're working on for a university, they're doing a whole separate research project that we're working on, and that's a, you know, larger amount of teeth as well. So
Yeah.
that's kind of how it works. I don't always know everything they're working on as far as what they're researching or why. And I don't dig into it, you know, as far as that goes. So,
Okay.
but they just deliver stuff typically in the spring and we try to crank it out by fall.
That's really great. That's great that you're able to connect with, state agencies
Yeah.
to fill that void in the quote unquote slow time with work.
Yeah.
I'm very interested to find out. I'm going to do some digging on my own here. What state agencies are sending you teeth, because I don't think, you know, I don't know that Michigan is necessarily like collecting bottom jaws of deer and
Yeah.
teeth out, but I do know
Yeah.
that they will stop and they'll collect carcass on the side of the road and take their heads and then do their own independent testing. I'm wondering if that's
Yeah.
part of it.
It could be. So we don't have very many state contracts right now. I don't
Hmm.
actively pursue that many state contracts. Um, it's not my passion, the state
Yeah.
contracts, and also they're pretty cheap. So you gotta kind of bid
Yes.
low and yeah, and I yeah, right. I know. Well, I mean, it's taxpayer money, so like I
Sure.
understand it. You know, you don't want to be just blowing it or whatever, but
Yeah.
you know, it's just a nice filler to keep the work flowing through the whole year, but I don't go crazy bidding on state contracts. It's just sometimes more hassle depending on the state. We have a couple that are really good that we
Yeah.
enjoy working with. So
You know, you make the point that it is taxpayer money that is paying for this research
yeah,
to be done. And so maybe
yeah,
you'd be a little frugal. However, I would go back to the argument that as a conservationist, somebody who spends money in the outdoors, someone who cares about our natural resource, I would think that today's hunters and lady hunters and the youth, and maybe not necessarily our older hunter generations, I don't know that they necessarily care as much, but I would love to know how our deer herd is trending age wise.
yeah,
And if that means that some of the outrageous amount of money that I'm spending on tags, either in state or out of state, goes to that funding, I think
yeah.
it's probably okay.
Yeah, and I'd like to what really like to do at some point, again, like this is when I have a little bit more staffing to where I can do some of these pet projects of mine, is I'd like to work with some different states to where they can offer us to handle the aging for the customer,
Yeah.
and maybe they could just offset that so the
Oh,
customer
yeah.
is still able to have their portal and see what their age is and all of that stuff, but we're just providing them that data,
Right.
because obviously we have a big huge database, so it wouldn't be very difficult for us to provide the data for the state versus them collecting the teeth and doing all of that stuff. So it's
Yeah.
something that I have kind of on my I'm kicking around as far as how I can make that work for some different states to make it easier on them, and potentially either cheaper for the customer or cheaper for them or whatever. I don't
Mhm.
know, but it's just some ideas I have thought about for different states to get the data that they need.
Right. I mean, heck, most of them have some sort of a digital platform now, whether it's an app
Yeah.
or an online service and or mandatory reporting. You know, why couldn't you have your information right there as
Yeah.
you're doing your mandatory reporting,
Yeah.
um, as an opportunity, you know, it's an opportunity. Hey, have you thought about having this deer aged? And they can either, oh, I never thought about that. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a fantastic thing.
Yeah.
Again, all for the sake of conservation,
Right.
for preserving this natural resource that we all love so much. You know, I think it would just be beneficial, man. That's really great. What are some of the weirdest things you've seen?
I have one in my desk right now. You want me to show it to you?
Yeah, of course. If you have it right there.
I have it right here because I guess I collect some oddities. Okay, so this guy, he said, my deer doesn't have any bottom teeth. Okay, we hear that a lot, right? And it's because the deer are so old that they're worn down. So I was like, just saw it off. They're probably down in the bone. We'll dig it out. It's no big deal. So I will show you what I got. This, I don't know. I hope you can see this. This little nub in here, where's my camera? There it is. This little nub, it looks like a tailbone or something.
Yeah.
This is the jaw. There is no teeth, no bones, no
Holy
nothing.
moly.
Okay. And so I was like, oh, well, now I feel like a jerk. So then here's the inside. Look at that. It looks like cauliflower for those of you who are just listening. I don't know. I don't know how to use a camera, but okay. So yeah, it looks like cauliflower inside of there. Um, so then I was thinking, oh man, this poor guy. I thought he was my usual, oh, they're just worn down. And then I'm thinking, dang, I hope he kept the side jaw because he was right. There is literally no teeth in here. And so I was like, hey, you don't have any teeth in there. You were right. So he did have the side jaw and we were able to get it to age. But what I did was I sent pictures of this to my pathologist, and it's unfortunately I did send it out in a Fun Fact Friday, but I can't remember what it was called. Like I think I'm wanting to say osteosarcoma,
Oh,
or something
interesting.
like that.
It is
It's
a
yeah,
thing.
it's a thing. It is a thing. It's a total thing. And yeah, so it can occur from a severe injury or something like that. So yeah, that's it is a
Wow.
thing. Mm-hmm. I want to see if I
Unbelievable.
oh, ossifying fibroma. That's what it was called. An
Fine
ossifying
fibroma.
fibroma. Yeah, I just found it on my paper. Yeah.
Holy moly. I would have
So
never.
that's I would say this is in the top weirdest things that I've
Yeah.
seen that have come in. It is very odd. So that's why I keep it in my desk because I'm like, you're not going to see another one of those probably. That was really weird.
That's amazing. I love it. Well,
Hmm.
where do you hope that you are going to take dearage.com in the future? What are your big goals?
I I have several. So I think one of my big goals is to really bring awareness to people that this type of aging not only exists, but is very easy to do. Um, I hope that people will take more of a passion and stewardship approach like you have and how you've mentioned. I think I would like to integrate with Onyx Maps at some point so that people can see their ages in their Onyx Maps, if that's even possible. I have lofty goals with regard to that. And I'd like for people to really abandon the outdated jaw aging. That's what I'd really like to see is that people don't even think about that anymore as this younger, newer generation comes along and sees that this is not only affordable, but it's very, very accurate. And then maybe even remap what we know of the deer age population and what they look like, on the hoof. And I think it could change based on different region, but that's sort of my overall goals.
Awesome. That's fantastic. I think those goals right there are, well, you mentioned reaching the younger generation. And, I am mid 40s and I have a hard time communicating with the younger generation at
I
work.
think you're the younger generation I'm talking about, though.
Oh,
But
okay. That's
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
you're the younger generation. Yeah. So,
Okay.
I
I
mean, I
feel so
think a
much
lot
better.
of this older generation of hunters that are in their say 60s, and so
Okay.
they're very old school, very much like, oh, the age doesn't matter. Versus like your age bracket, this younger hunting generation is very much into stewardship
Okay.
and management and things like that. And so the younger generation that you're talking about, I don't know what's going to
We don't
happen
know
with
yet.
them just in general. we, we don't know.
Yeah, we don't
If we
know.
could get them off their iPads, maybe, but I
Yeah.
don't know.
I think but like you said, people my age,
Yeah.
30s and 40s, setting the example.
Yes.
Having podcasts where you can, because podcasts are being consumed just everywhere. And so if you can set a good example and you can offer this information to the younger generation and even to the older generation, and be able to articulate everything exactly the way you've been able to articulate it, being able to touch and see via the portal and just understand why, um, through technology and information consumption like we're doing today, I think is the only way we're going to either get to both ends of that spectrum, the young and the old. And I think you're doing a
Yeah,
good
I
job.
agree. Well, thank you. Thank you. I really enjoy doing podcasts. Like I said, I pretty much eat, sleep, and breathe deer age. It's definitely far surpassed my other business with regard to my attention. And I enjoy the challenges it brings. I don't have any other hobbies or anything else that I do. It's just pretty much deer age all the time. So it's nice to be able to come onto a podcast and talk about what I know best.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm happy that I have a place that you can do that and that it worked out.
Me too. Thank
Yeah,
you.
absolutely. Well, again, if you could just remind everybody where they can find you and learn more about deer aging and the whole process. Your website's fantastic. It's got so much information on it. Why don't you let everybody know?
Thank you so much. If you are interested in learning the accurate age of your deer, go to www.deerage.com.
And I'll have a link to that in the show notes and also on the YouTube. version of this. And Heather, I can't thank you enough for coming on today. I probably could have taken up 3 hours of your time digging really deeply into a lot of things, but you're a busy woman and you have a lot going on over there, and I respect that. And I hope maybe we can do this again another time.
Yeah, if you think of more questions and you wanna plan out another one, let's do it. I'm totally down.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody for sticking around and listening. If you haven't yet, go to iTunes and subscribe and give us a rating. And head on over to deerage.com and check it out. Get your kit for the 4th of July sale for this season, because what's going to happen is you're going to shoot a deer and you're going to go, oh crap, I forgot to get my kit. I should have got it when there was a sale.
That's
So
right.
get it while there's a sale, have it sitting in your on your desk. And then when that deer shows in, you have a fresh jaw to extract the bottom 2 incisors, stick them in an envelope after they're dry, and mail them on out to Heather. Thanks, everybody.
Sounds
We'll
good to
talk to you
me.
next week.